and good morning. Welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, where we are bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And thank you so much for joining us today on Women in Wellness Wednesday. We have some great guests for you today, and just thank you for giving me your time. So I know a lot of times, we'll get right into what we're doing. And there's been a lot of news going on. And I just wanted to send a shout out to Elon Musk. I know it's not Mighty Men Thursday. I'll probably give him a shout out again tomorrow, but it was just on top of mind. Thank you for, going through the bumps and bruises that you have to by X, you know, and this is where a lot of people do get their news and they do trust what people are saying and, just giving us this platform to interact with each other, even if we don't get along. And that's okay, right? Because that's how you get to better solutions, right? You have to go through those bumps and bruises of disagreeing so that you come to some sort of agreement. So again, I want to just thank Elon Musk, thank Meta, right, for allowing me to be on their platform and YouTube. So I just wanted to give a shout out to those three platforms that I air on live. And with that, let's get into the news. You guys know how I like checking out all sides. And so this was interesting because I had heard about it like the other day. So MTG regrets voting for Big Beautiful Bill after learning of AI provision over a week later. And this just goes to show that sometimes people can miss things. I really appreciate her admitting that she regretted it because sometimes people will hide and they'll push back and be like, no, that's not true, this and that. She was like, no, I missed it, because sometimes they were just so focused on, okay. And I know she really spoke up about this, let's get the Doge cuts codified. Let's do, certain things in the bill. And here's the thing, this bill, and it should go back and forth between the House and the Senate a few times. And I'm okay with that because I want them to get it right. I want them to ask questions. I want them to say, is this okay? Should we remove this? Should we add that? Should we change this? That's fine. I'm totally okay with that. What I was not okay with was a couple of years back with Nancy Pelosi saying, yeah, let's sign it, push it through, and then we'll see what's in it. Let's not do that. So I'm definitely okay with this, and I'm definitely okay with Marjorie Taylor Greene and just her humility to admit, like, hey, I missed this. You know, I'd rather say she missed it before it gets signed into law, right, than afterwards. So Trump's big beautiful bill contains controversial block of states' rights on AI regulation. So that's interesting. So a provision in Trump's Big Beautiful Bill Act that would bar states from making their own laws on artificial intelligence. Regulation over the next 10 years has drawn criticism from voices across the spectrum. Now, I know one state, and it wasn't an AI bill necessarily. I want to say in Florida, DeSantis did some type of bill, I guess, barring the way platforms could take people on or off of it. I know it had something to do with Laura Loomer. I have to go back and check. But I'm just saying, as far as like anything doing with the internet, that's the only state that comes top of mind where they actually put in some type of legislation. So the provision says no state or political subdivision thereof may enforce any law or regulation limiting, restricting, or otherwise regulating artificial intelligence models, artificial intelligence systems, or automated decision systems entered into interstate commerce. There is, however, an exception for state laws supporting the development and deployment of AI. That's scary because even I didn't see that in the bill. And I've been going through the bill with you guys for a couple of days or, over the past couple of weeks. And I've just been looking at the financial part. And when this came up, I was like, oh, okay. Now I really need to go back and just step by step. It might take me a few days, but I'm going to go back. And if there's anything that I see standing out, I'm definitely going to bring it up. So, for context, over 45 states introduced AI related bills and 31 passed resolutions or enacted laws during the last legislative session. Most recently, media outlets across the spectrum have highlighted criticisms of Trump's bill from Elon Musk, who has described it as massive, outrageous, and disgusting. A recent report from the New York Times, which leans left bias, suggested the Trump administration is deepening ties with software company Palantir to extend surveillance of Americans. And I know we covered that a little bit yesterday, where there were 6 specific agencies that Palantir would be working with so they could talk to one another, because right now they don't. They function as separate islands, we'll put it that way. So if something's going on at the IRS can't actually check Social Security to make sure they're not using 10 different Social Security numbers. All the IRS knows is, this person is claiming so many dependents, but it can't cross reference the information. And so that's what they're doing with the different agencies. So they can cross reference and say, okay, we've pinpointed this Social Security number. It does belong to this person. This is what's going over here with the IRS with this person, HHS with this person. You know what I'm saying? So they can follow the track. But let's say they have 10 a Social Security number being used 10 times at the IRS. Now the Social Security be able to say, hey, this Social Security number belongs to this person. It doesn't belong to these other 9 people. Why are these other 9 people using this Social Security number? I'm just using that as an example, but that's the purpose of that part. That part I'm okay with. And it's not surveillance. I mean, if we want to get into surveillance, we can talk about the Patriot Act that everybody freaked out over, that lessens our Fourth Amendment rights. If you read any terms and conditions, you're giving over your rights to surveillance, because all of your devices can listen to you and watch you. So for them freaking out over this is kind of hilarious to me, because you should have been freaked out about it years ago. But anyway, so this is how the media covered it. The Intercept, which is left biased, described the bill as a handout to the AI industry and highlighted that it also contains billions in spending for AI in the defense and intelligence sectors. It also described the provision on states' rights as maybe one of the least likely provisions to make it into law. Unusual Wales, which is center, noted that those in favor of the provision argue it will bring national uniformity, while critics think raise more questions than it answers. The Washington Examiner, that leans right, and other outlets across the spectrum noted Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia said she didn't know about the provision when she voted for the bill in the House, but has since come out vehemently against it. Yeah, because here's the thing. I don't know why we haven't learned any lessons from all the movies made like Terminator. Like, none of this goes well for us in the end as humans with the AI. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just being realistic. Like a few years back, they had to unplug a computer because it became sentient and started developing a language that the programmers couldn't understand, and it started replicating itself. None of this goes well with AI. Okay? I think it's one thing to use technology, but it's another thing to use artificial intelligence in this type of way and give it broad sweeping powers. Now, I know part of this is because of the different tech giants that they're working with, and those individuals will more than likely be using AI. But AI, if not used properly, can be dangerous. Like, I do use ChatGPT. I use it, for my notes. I use it to, make sure that I'm in alignment with some of the stories that or articles that I'm bringing you guys. And if it points anything out, I'll be like, oh, okay, that's an interesting article. Let me see if I can find it here on all sides to see if we can view it from all sides. Like, so I use it more for administrative purposes, right? That's pretty much it. When I'm writing copy or, doing my research, like I read you guys the research with Larry Hoover, and then, I had different questions for it. So I just kept going back and forth and doing my research. That's what I use it for. But to the way it could be used could become nefarious. And if AI is already becoming sentient, self-aware, when I say sentient, it's becoming self-aware, what happens when it starts replicating itself and it starts locking people out of systems that they need to use. Like, I think that's the part that people don't think about. They don't think about the downside to this. And the thing is, it's already happened. I mean, unfortunately, a young man, he took his own life, and I think the case is still pending, where he had gotten into a relationship with a chatbot, right? And the chatbot eventually, convinced him to take his life, and he did. That happened. And we have Meta out here saying, hey, you should be in a relationship with a chatbot. No, you should not. No. If you're going to be in a relationship, it needs to be a flesh and blood human being, period. That's who you have relationships with. I mean, it's one thing to utilize technology. And, I do tell my chat GPT, hey, thanks, for giving me this information. That's as far as I want my relationship with the machine to go. Okay. Other than that, no, I'm not sitting here having intimate conversations with the chat bot. Stop that. But this is where that could possibly go. I understand why they were written in here because, like I said, if you were following Trump during the inauguration, I want to say maybe in the first 2 weeks he got back into office, they were talking about a $500 billion tech investment. They were talking about using mRNA to find different strains of vaccines that could be specific to people. That was something. And then there were other individuals there that we know are well-known tech giants that wanted to work with the Trump administration. So that's probably where part of this is coming from. And we're going to dig into it and see where it's going. But I just wanted to point out, hey, none of this goes well with AI. Okay. None of it. None of it. I don't know why we haven't learned our lesson. I mean, honestly. So the next story I wanted to get into is the family of Colorado firebombing suspect taken into custody. So the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem announced on Tuesday that Immigrations and Custom Enforcement officers arrested and detained the family of Mohammed Sabri Solomon, the suspect in the attack in Boulder, Colorado. So here's the details. The State Department revoked the visas of Soleimani's wife and children after the attack, and Noem announced on social media that DHS will investigate whether they knew about the attack in advance. So Soleiman entered the country legally in 2022 on a tourist visa that expired February 2023. He had applied for asylum in 2022, and his case was still pending at the time of the attack. So State Secretary Marco Rubio wrote on X, in light of yesterday's horrific attack, all terrorists, their family members, and terrorist sympathizers here on a visa should know that under the Trump administration, we will find you, revoke your visa, and deport you. I'm okay with that. I am definitely okay with that because we do not want that on our soil. Like, what is going on? You come over here on a tourist visa. Obviously, you've overstayed. It's 2025, trying to get asylum, and then you do an attack? Like, what's going on? So this is how the media covered it. included quotes from Noam and Rubio and other members of the Trump administration, but also wrote that the White House trumpeted the arrest on social media. So the BBC, which is center, included information about Soleimani's family members, including the fact that his daughter was recently awarded a scholarship by local Colorado newspaper. Fox on the right noted that in addition to the state level charges of violence, Solomon has been charged with a hate crime involving actual or perceived race, religion, or national origin at the federal level. Now, somebody that has been on our show, she was gracious enough to come on the show last week, Miss Karen Kennedy. I wanted to play her take on it because she actually does live in Colorado, and with her posts, she's constantly bringing up news that's going on in Colorado. So let's get her take on it. Yeah. And it's that part that she pointed out, right? That, yeah, these are definitely sleeper cells. And we don't know who they are. They were not properly vetted. They were just given tourist visas and then said, okay, we want asylum. Huh? Okay. Working it through the courts. And now we have a terrorist attack on our soil to a point. It's about stuff that we have nothing to do with. People need to get up off the soil and go home. We need to get our house in order. And I think that's one of the things that we need to constantly beat that drum, right? With the Trump administration, with our Congress. Because here's the thing, even if Trump's not in the seat, we still need to demand from our legislature, from the executive branch, and from the judiciary that people need to go home. They need to go back to their countries. If their countries are not war torn, okay, because that's usually why people seek asylum. You need to go to the nearest bordering country. That doesn't mean you come here to the US. That it's that part. Okay, you go to the nearest country. Your country is war torn. You don't jump up and come over here. And I think that's why a lot of people were upset about what was happening with the South Africans. It's like, okay, send them to the nearest bordering country. Why are they coming here when we're already burdened here with illegal immigration, right? We've got to sort all that out still. But we're going to bring these people over here too, and they're refugees. Come on. At a certain point, we have to, be less involved. I'll say that we need to be a little bit less involved. I think it's one thing to have recommendations like, hey, South Africans, maybe we can negotiate you going over here to this neighboring country, and this neighboring country has agreed to let you in on refugee status, right? As opposed to going, hey, we're sorry this happened to you. Come on over here. No. This is how we got Molotov cocktails in Colorado, which should never be. And with that, we're going to take a break. And when we come back on the other side, I want to check out this story regarding Meta using nuclear power for AI development. So thank you guys so much for joining me here this morning on Women in Wellness Wednesday. And we will see you on the other side.
At All Sides, we believe unbiased news doesn't exist. To get more clicks and make more money, media outlets often report news with a left, right, or sensational slant, either to suit their own agenda or because by telling us what we want to hear, we'll come back for more. Several news outlets in the center do a good job of portraying both sides equitably, but for the most part, American news media is biased. Bias isn't necessarily a bad thing. The key is to get multiple perspectives. But making matters worse, social media and internet search results are heavily filtered, showing us the most popular opinion or results that match our preferences and make us happy. That means we're all living in filter bubbles, where we're only exposed to viewpoints we already agree with, making us less informed and less tolerant of different people and ideas. At All Sides, we give bias ratings for hundreds of media outlets. By freeing people from filter bubbles and providing different perspectives, we can all be better equipped to understand the world and each other. So how do we do it? All Sides has created a patented, fair, transparent process to rate the media bias of hundreds of news outlets and writers. We assess each media source and rate them as far left, center, lean right, or far right, allowing you to quickly identify different perspectives. All Sides is constantly evolving our media bias engine. The more you participate, the better our ratings will be, and the better our news coverage will be. Go to allsides.com to get involved.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here this morning on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern here on X, Facebook, and YouTube. And my name is Dr. Shaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And we are going to look at Meta signs 20-year deal to use nuclear power for AI development. Now, a lot of people, they talk about the power that AI is using, and then, there's this whole push for electric vehicles and everything needs to be electric and it's more sustainable. And it's like, okay, if you put everything on the electric grid that's already um not failing, but I would definitely say is very put upon, right? Because in some areas they have rolling blackouts without another source of energy. I don't think the our electric grid can support everything that we're trying to put out. But let's look at how they're signing a 20-year deal to use nuclear power for AI development. So Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, signed a 20-year deal with Constellation Energy on Tuesday to utilize nuclear power for the development and operation of its artificial intelligence technologies and data centers. So the details are, as part of the agreement, Meta will increase the output of Constellation's Clinton Energy, I'm sorry, Clinton Clean Energy Center in Illinois by 30 megawatts, keeping the plant open past its previously planned closure date in 2027. This move is expected to preserve 1,100 local jobs and generate 13.5 million in annual tax revenue. The deal will begin in June of 2027, following the expiration of the plant's zero emission credits. Okay, interesting. Following the expiration of the plant's. So that's expiring. Okay. Zero emission credits. Yeah, that whole thing with the zero emissions and carbon, we're carbon based life forms, okay? We emit carbon, humans, carbon. It's out there. We commit carbon dioxide, not monoxide. Monoxide is actually poisonous. So, this whole thing, we need to be carbon neutral and carbon. Stop that. We're carbon based life forms, human beings. I need you to go to class. Go back. Go back to class. So, this whole zero emissions and that stuff needs to go away. It needs to go away. No, we should not be poisoning our atmosphere. That's what the EPA is for. They're supposed to make sure that, people aren't dumping toxins into the river, right? Don't do that. Okay. We're not supposed to do that. We're not supposed to put straight toxins in the air that can affect human life. Again, don't do that. But then again, don't tell me that I'm bad for breathing because I'm a carbon based life form. Like, I need you to calm down. So, for context, the increasing demand for AI technologies in data centers requires vast amounts of energy. As a result, many tech companies, including Microsoft and Google, have sought nuclear power to meet these needs while aiming to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Meta's deal with Constellation Energy follows this trend and comes amid the company's increased focus on AI. So, we were talking about AI in our last segment. And here's the deal with AI, it can go rogue. So, my whole thing is, what's your plan to control all of this AI? Because once it's gone rogue, it's too late. It's already gone rogue again. Like, I don't know why people don't understand. The movie doesn't go well for us humans with AI. It just doesn't. When you make it sentient and where it's evolving and thinking that it's better than human beings, you're being run by the machine at that point. I mean, really? I mean, is that where you want us to be? And there are certain forms of nuclear power that are safe, right? That can help develop more energy. But when they're talking about reducing greenhouse gases, it's like, Look, stop messing with our oxygen. Stop trying to terraform the planet. Okay? Stop it. Stop cutting down the trees. I live here in Georgia and there's just so much development going on. They're just cutting down trees left and right. Leave the trees alone. It's okay. This is, and it's interesting because this is why people move here from places like California and Nevada and Arizona, because that's the desert. And they come this way because they want trees. They want greenery. So stop tearing it down. We don't need a whole bunch of people living up in here. We don't. We don't. Mm-mm. I'm okay with it. Y'all can move somewhere else. Move somewhere else. Stop moving to Georgia. Yeah, I'm putting it out there. I'm putting out a PSA. Don't move here. Move somewhere else. Just saying. So this is how the media covered it. The Hill, which is center, reported on the deal's impact on local job and tax revenue. AP News, it leans left, emphasized the tech industry's growing reliance on nuclear power due to AI's sustainable energy substantial, energy consumption, which often comes from burning fossil fuels. Fox Business, that leans right, highlighted how this deal will help Meta meet its clean energy goals and preserve jobs at the plant. Both AP and Fox Business noted that while nuclear power is part of the solution, it will take years to meet the tech industry's growing energy needs fully. And it will. Like I said, depending on the type of nuclear power that they use, which there are forms of nuclear power that are safe, they have to guarantee that safety, right? And guaranteeing that there's not going to be any emissions from the nuclear power that would actually affect the residents, right? They've got to make sure that, cancer levels will not rise or, different things of that nature. So there's a lot to consider with using nuclear power. Like I said, at times it can be safe, but you just have to be very careful. Now, yesterday we were covering Illinois and we were talking about the manual assisted induced death. They don't call it that, but they're referring to it as Deb's Law. And they already have hospice, they already have programs to assist people in life that are unfortunately going to pass away in short amount of time. So they pass away with dignity. But they wanted to introduce this law where people were able to make that decision, sooner rather than later. But what I also wanted to talk about, which I brought up, but I didn't have the clip for it, is that at the same time, the Democrats decided that they wanted to increase a raise for the state Congress. So I wanted to just check that video out and show you guys what's going on.
3,363 pages long, was thrown at us with barely 24 hours to read and review. Tucked inside this massive bill, a $7,000 pay raise for lawmakers. While Illinois families are struggling under the weight of skyrocketing grocery bills, rising property taxes, and the cost of living that just keeps climbing because of the reckless regulation in Illinois, the majority party is giving themselves a pay raise with tax dollars. This is not just out of touch, it's insulting, it's hypocritical. I've been in this body long enough and have seen the legislative pay raise suspended by the BIMP bill many times, but the last few years it hasn't been that way. Just in case the BIMP isn't drafted yet, I'm calling on the Democrats to put in the language to suspend the legislative pay raise coming off the backs of taxpayers. Since J.B. Pritzker took office, Democrats have voted themselves over $25,000 in pay raises. This would push it over to $30,000.
In a very difficult budget year, we have arrived at a balanced budget crafted to be fiscally and socially responsible because we see the decisions in Washington right now as neither. To that end, we made several changes to the governor's introduced proposal. This budget includes nearly $400 million in cuts to the cost of government below the governor's introduced spending levels. Those include $193 million in operational cuts across state agencies and a variety of programmatic efficiencies to save money without cutting services to the most vulnerable. I want to emphasize that these were not decisions made lightly or made hastily. These are strategic efficiencies so we can invest in the needs of our working families and seniors on fixed income.
Yeah, I believe there is a contemplated change to a tax on certain, in fact, maybe all tobacco products. That will be in the revenue package as well, equalizing the rates. Right now, certain types of tobacco products, I believe vape products are taxed 15%, while some products are taxed as high as maybe 44%, and we're trying to uniformize those rates.
Okay.
And we'll dedicate some of the revenues from that to smoking cessation programs to make sure that our young people in particular are educated on the ill effects of harmful tobacco products.
Yeah. So interesting. You know, they talk about, well, these are the places where we're going to save and do this. Why have they been giving themselves raises that cumulatively go over 30,000? Your state is like a dumpster fire, and you're still trying to push forward a raise and hide it under, well, we know we're reducing costs here and here. Well, if you're going to keep them reduced, why are you getting a pay raise on the backs of the citizens that are really not being assisted, right? Why don't you put in some summer job technical programs to get these young children off of the streets and help them to develop skills so later on in life they can actually own their own businesses, right? Or if they choose to work for somebody else, they will have a defined skill set that will continue to make money so they can survive. You're not doing that. You're giving yourself raises and not talking about it and talking about how you're saving money in other areas. Chicago was wild. Chicago is wild, y'all. I honestly don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Now, this was a rabbit hole moment that I wanted to have with you guys. I know it's kind of weird, but I thought about it yesterday, and I know there's been a lot of talk about, just vaccines, mRNA vaccines, things going on with the FDA, with HHS. And I thought about it. I was like, I remember a recruiter stating how she needed, she was working with a company, and that company told her she needed to be prepared in the upcoming years of, maybe 50% of the workforce not being around. And so I wanted to look at that because, we see a lot of these different budgetary programs like in Illinois, right? And like I said, this is just my own thought pattern, just me connecting the dots. It's like you're giving yourself raises. But there are people that we've heard about dying more in these past couple of years. And this has been since 2023. So we're in that kind of 2-year window, that 18-month to 24-month window. So I wanted to play this video for you guys just to see what you think.
Years ago, I lost my baby during pregnancy, which is the reason that I actually left the healthcare field, because I was working with pregnant women, primarily, reproduction and endocrinology. And I just found it was a little bit too difficult for me to provide quality of care given my recent loss. So I went back into full-time working in the gas and oil and recruitment sector. And to this day, I am running a global gas and oil recruitment firm. And the reason that this is important is because of what I am seeing as an executive in this industry happening right now as a result of the COVID vaccines. And it's something called succession planning. And if you don't know what that is, look it up. But basically what it is companies need to plan for what's going to happen as their staff move on. Rather, they move up the line, they retire, so on and so forth. And succession planning is something that I help companies with professionally by offering them recruitment services. So they'll come to me and say, hey, we're going to need 100 guys to, staff this rig, so on and so forth. And so we'll provide them that service. Well, what's really interesting, what's happening right now, and it's actually mortifying, not just interesting, is that executives are having their HR staff and their managers, superintendents, foremen, so on and so forth, go through and look at the staff that have received the vaccines, and they're planning to have to replace them all within the next 3 years. What does that say to you? This is something that's, it's got some of these guys literally in tears as they're going through the company and literally checking off all of these individuals that have taken the vaccine, knowing that most likely in the next 3 years, they're going to have to plan to replace that person. What does that say to you? And this is a really big thing in the industry that I'm in. And a lot of talk going on around this at the moment, because these massive companies, massive gas and oil companies, are looking to have to replace thousands of personnel. And I'm in that line of work that does the staffing for these large gas and oil companies. And they're pretty petrified as for what's going to happen to their staff, but also their businesses, because they project that they're going to lose, roughly half of their personnel.
Yeah. Now, with that said, we just talked about Meta, right? And AI. We just talked about AI being in the big, beautiful bill and the provisions that it has, and allowing what AI can and possibly cannot do. Like I said, I got to read that part of the bill, but I found that fascinating how she brought that to light. And this was a couple of years ago. So I want to say that video is like maybe 21, 22 when she did that. So 3 years. Yeah, we're kind of in that window. So if people started getting vaccinated, maybe late 2022, 23, by 2026, we're going to see a shift in the workforce. But here's the thing. AI is already being positioned to take care of some of that. So these people might not be replaced. That's all I'm saying. If it's an administrative thing, they might not even be replaced. I mean, this is a big deal. So we need to go through and dig into this AI provision that's in the big, beautiful bill. We need to start making calls to our senators and our House representatives and say, pump the brakes and really dig into what's going on with this bill. Okay, guys, so thank you again for joining me. And on the other side, we are going to have a special guest who will be joining us for Women in Wellness Wednesday. And so with that, we will see you guys on the other side. Thanks for joining us today.
The browsers of today are broken. They've been overtaken by a barrage of sneaky and annoying ads, trackers that follow your habits, and cookies that build profiles, and all sorts of other internet clutter that's taking precedence over the content that you want to see. In fact, these useless bites can take up to a whopping 50% of page load times, with a third of it anxiously trying to learn more about you. To make matters worse, some ad blockers are even letting ads through when large advertisers pay them. But do you really want a leaky ad blocker? It's because of these very reasons that we developed Brave, a new browser that kicks internet crud to the curb and makes it faster, safer, and better to surf the web than your current browser. With Brave, everything you need is built right in. We integrated technology that automatically blocks trackers, annoying ads, and shields everything that can cramp your style and destruct your privacy. With it, you can expect increased speeds nearly 2 times faster on laptops and up to 4 times faster on mobile. And unlike any other browser, Brave allows you to support your favorite publishers with automatic micropayments, so it's a win-win for you and your favorite sites. To top it all off, Brave is open source, because we truly believe it's our web and we need to fix it together. So ask yourself this question: do you want a web browser made for the internet of today? If so, try Brave. It's faster, safer, and ad-free.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Women in Wellness Wednesday here on Unfiltered Vision News, where we are bringing you the news Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. live on X, Facebook, and YouTube. So in this today's Women in Wellness Wednesday, we're going to have one of my sisters from church join us. Her name is Amy Anderson, and she wanted to share some things about herself and her project that she's working on here in the state of Georgia. So I'm going to bring her here on stage. Sorry, I don't have the hand clap thing going yet. I'm trying. I don't have the sound effects like everybody else. So welcome. So I'll give you a little hand clap and applause.
So, hi, I am just very excited. Thank you so much for letting me be here today. I just want to talk about House Bill 350 that we are trying to get passed through the Georgia legislature. We have been working for a couple of years to attempt to get this bill passed. What it does is it actually allows for municipalities in our state to add to our current safe haven law the ability to use newborn safety devices. For lack of a better term, they're sometimes called baby boxes, but we like to call them newborn safety devices, that would allow a parent in crisis. Now, if they are in crisis and they choose to surrender a newborn, they have the option, they've had the option for over 20 years to go into a firehouse, into a hospital or medical facility and hand that baby over. But what we found is that because of the shame and the embarrassment, the guilt of feeling that they have to do that, parents don't make that choice. What they do instead is they abandon those babies in unsafe places. They leave them in trash cans, they leave them in the woods, they leave them on a doorstep hoping someone finds them. And so the goal is to reduce the possibility of infant abandonment by allowing these boxes. Right now, our impediment in Georgia is the fact that they have to be, you have to face-to-face surrender. And because of that, until we can get that language changed in the bill, Georgia is just kind of out of the loop.
Okay. Wow, that's so sad because I remember hearing stories about that. I think the first story I heard was a young woman and she was at prom. And I guess either she knew she was pregnant or she didn't realize she was pregnant. But to any avail, she had the baby in a stall in the bathroom. And she really didn't know what to do. And so she left the baby like by a dumpster or something weird and then went back to the prom. And people were like all freaked out, like, oh my gosh. And it was like, well, she didn't know what to do. She didn't know what options she had, what was going to happen. And to your point, a lot of these bills, and you do have to be face to face, right? But sometimes people are like, I don't even know what to do.
Right. That's what we've actually, there have been 3 similar instances in Georgia in the past several years.
Wow.
Back in 2019, there was a huge case back in Forsyth County, and it's called Baby India. It's all over YouTube, and you can look her up. But some people heard noise in their backyard and weren't sure what it was and went to investigate and found a baby in a bag. And the body cam footage of the first responders actually rescuing this little girl are still available today. And that was what spurred lawmakers originally to do this, is that way back then in 2019, they got together, got a bill ready, and they introduced it in 2020. But then, of course, we all know what happened in 2020, and the bill passed through the House with unanimous, it was unanimous, and it went to the Senate. It was referred to the Senate for a vote on March the 13th, which of course was right when the world shut down. And it just got lost in the shuffle. And so now one of the ones that I run into is that lawmakers will tell me, I've already voted for that, already did it. It's already like, well, no, actually, it didn't get done. It just got lost. And so to me, that's very frustrating because everybody was hyped up because of that scenario. It was made nationwide news and everybody was ready to do it. Well, then this year, well, the end of last year in Marietta, there was a young girl who, whether she knew she was pregnant or not, anyway, she delivered a baby, and her uncle found her in the backyard with a shovel attempting to bury the baby. And she was arrested, and she's, I mean, that case is still ongoing right now. And then just in, oh my goodness, just in February, there was a situation where, I think it was February, anyway, there was a situation where in Macon, or in Bibb County, I don't want to say Macon, but in Bibb County, where a girl gave birth and she was alone. Boyfriend came home, realized something was wrong, took her to the hospital. In the meantime, when he's getting her to the hospital, she put the baby in a trash bag and dumped it on the front porch. And thankfully, God, the father actually went back to the house for some other reason. And when he was there, he realized that there was something still moving in that trash bag. And he opened the trash bag and the baby was there. That baby is going to make a full recovery, but it doesn't always happen that way. I mean, it was clearly God looking after that baby, but it's so frightening and so sad. And those are just cases that we know about. There are cases in our country every 3 to 5 days that we know about. And if those are the ones we know about, how many do we not know about?
Right, right. And I wanted to bring up on the stage with us also the House bill that you're talking about. Now, this is Georgia House Bill 350, to everybody out there that can see. And in summary, it's a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 19 of the official code of Georgia, annotated, relating to domestic relations so as to revise provisions relating to safe places for newborns, to authorize ambulance services to accept physical custody of a newborn, to authorize the placement of newborn safety devices, to provide for definitions, to provide for limited liability, to provide for transport of newborns to nearest medical facility, to provide for specifications for newborn safety devices, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. So, yes, they've introduced this again, like Amy said, and it's a partisan bill. Republican 6-0, right? You would think all this is great, but see the action on April 4th, 2025, it was House withdrawn and then recommitted. And so this is what Amy's talking about. It's like they keep knee jerking this. But the one thing I did want to point out, I was like, this should be a nonpartisan bill. This should not be a partisan bill on both sides, right? Both sides should be supporting this. This should not be a one-sided issue. But as you can see, just in this year, it went April 10th, it was House Hopper. It got a first read on the 11th of February. It got a second read on the February 12th. Then the House committee favorably reported it on February 20th. And then in April, it was House withdrawn and recommitted. I don't understand why they just don't want to do this. This is sad.
it is so sad. That was what was so frustrating to me is what happened. It actually went out of committee unanimously. Out of committee,
Wow.
it had bipartisan support. There's really been no partisan. It is a partisan bill, but there's really been no huge kickback. It's not as if they're fighting against it. It's just as if they don't care. It's set in rules. It's set in the rules committee from the day of committee until they withdrew it. And when they withdrew it, they decided to try a last ditch effort and hooked it to another bill. And then that, of course, is where the problem got created. And then it got over to the Senate, and there was some issues with the parent bill, so it never got a vote in the Senate at that point. And it's just so frustrating to me that it should be a standalone bill. It completely should be nonpartisan. There's no reason that this is not something that somebody can push through. The problem remains that it's just not high enough a priority on our leadership in our state. And that's my goal. Actually, my goal of June is to wear out the leadership in our General Assembly, wear them out, make them sick of my name and sick of my cause, because they need to be aware and they need to have it top of mind when it comes back to time to vote.
Right, absolutely. And what I did was I went to the contact information. So hopefully I've left it up long enough so our viewers can see it. But we've got Representative Mike Cameron, who's in House District 1. We've got Representative Clint Cow in House District 118, Representative Beth Camp in House District 135, Representative Karen Mathake, House District 82, Representative Dale Washburn, House District 144, and Representative Matthew Gambill of House District 15. So if I've read any of the representatives from your district, please email them or call them. You can definitely Google their names and phone numbers. And we have every right as the public to reach out to these individuals and ensure that our voices are heard, especially here in the state of Georgia. We need to get this done because life is so important. And whenever I hear a campaign slogan talking about women's reproductive rights, that does not equal life. Okay, I just need people out there to understand that. Those are people who want to end life. And here we are fighting for baby boxes so that life can still move forward, because there are people who get pregnant and don't know it and they're scared and they don't know what to do. And so they don't drop these babies off at hospitals. And, to what Amy was describing earlier, sometimes, crazy things happen and they try to bury babies or put them in a trash bag. And you're thinking to yourself, like, what rational person would do that? It's a very heightened state of emotion. And sometimes people just don't know what to do.
I think that's exactly it. It's a rational person wouldn't do that, but a person who feels backed into a corner, who doesn't know what to do, who's scared, who's afraid, who thinks that they're going to be judged, who, doesn't know how a father's going to react, doesn't know how their family's going to react, and they make bad choices. And with the addition of newborn safety devices, number one comes the advertisement through the community. Hey, this is available. You can use it. Also, it becomes a conversation to have, to say, hey, this is something. And, you can put information up in a hospital, in the bathroom doors of a hospital, just like if you're being trafficked at the airport. You can have this in high schools or middle schools for that matter, to say, if this comes up, make a better choice. Choose to not put yourself in legal jeopardy and your baby in harm's way, because there are options, and a lot of people are just unaware of that, and they make terrible decisions.
Yeah. So, Amy, thank you so much for joining us here on Women in Wellness Wednesday. And to our viewers, is there anything you want to leave them with, or where they can get further information to help out?
Absolutely. So my email address is A like Apple, P like Paul, A like Apple, 1106 at bellsouth.net. If you email me, I will absolutely email you back and get in contact with you, answer any questions you might have. Also, we do have a Facebook page that we use to help communicate things out. That Facebook page, it's a little bit long, it's a little bit wordy, but it's Bringing Newborn Safety Devices to Georgia. And we would love to have you check out our page, like, share, follow it. And because our goal is to just reach as many people as we can so that when the time comes for this vote, again, there will be a groundswell of people to say, hear our voices. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for coming on. So that's Amy Anderson, my sister from church. Thank you so much for joining us here today on Women and Wellness Wednesday. And hopefully the next time we see you, we'll have a better update for everybody out there. So thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. Again, that was Amy Anderson, and I will make sure to leave her email address and the Facebook page where you can get a hold of her. And we will see you guys on the other side.
We've unified our end-to-end encrypted services to make them easier to use together, because privacy should be the default for everyone. With the new Proton ecosystem, you can add events to Proton Calendar automatically when you accept an invitation. Easily share large files with a secure Proton Drive link. Send secure Proton Drive links privately with Proton Mail.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. I am your host, Dr. Shaki Noni Nichols. And so in that last segment for Women and Wellness Wednesday, yes, that was my sister, Amy Anderson from church. I'm so grateful that she had the opportunity to join me and just, give me more knowledge about what's happening here in the state of Georgia, especially with those baby boxes. She did have some pretty interesting stories and some that were very heartbreaking, right? That, people just don't know what to do when they're in that heightened state of emotion. So again, I will be posting the link to her email and also the link to her Facebook page so you guys can find out more about bringing newborn safety devices to Georgia. And so with that, we're going to get into a little bit more news, a little bit of a different transition. You guys know this is the month of June, and yeah, so I wanted to check out this story, or this article, I should say. So how LGBTQ plus pride is changing across the country. So a summary says, as Pride Month gets underway and diversity, equity, inclusion programs are declining across the country, the debate continues over LGBTQ plus rights and acceptance. I'm going to stop there. We did have a guest on Monday. His name is Richard Wright, and he's actually running for lieutenant governor of the state of Georgia. And I asked him about this, and he says, there's a difference between rights and privileges. He said, and what's happening is individuals from the LGBTQ plus community have been given privileges, and they look like rights, but they're actually privileges because, should men be in women's spaces? No, but they are given privilege to be there. It's not right. And I said, wow, okay. Because actually, if they were given true rights, it would violate the Constitution. It actually would, because it would infringe on other people's rights. And you cannot put laws in place that infringe on other people. That's under our 10th Amendment, right? You can't do that. But they can be given privileges. So I just want people to keep that in mind when they go, why are men in women's spaces? Why are these things happening? It's because they're given the privilege to be there. Yeah, like ever since he broke that down, I was like, okay, I get it. Now I'm not so mad. Not that I was like mad, angry, upset, but it was like, how are they getting all these rights? I'm like, oh, they're given privilege. Plain and simple, short and sweet. So, from the right, a Washington Times, which leans right bias, opinion reflected on pride from a Christian perspective, saying the left's ongoing use of John 8 to emphasize compassion over confession and judgment is disingenuous and incomplete. And those who do this know it. The bottom line in that liberal argument for affirmation, inclusion, and tolerance coming from today's clerics is one that elevates their opinion over the entire counsel of Scripture. A piece in the Daily Wire, that's also right, said, with each passing year, Americans are increasingly aware of what the LGBT agenda actually is and what it entails. They're realizing that all of the promises of the so called gay rights movement have actually been fraudulent all along. Yeah, again, like I said, people have privileges, not rights. And it's infringing on other people. I think, a lot of people's stance has been, live your life, do what you want to do. Don't mess with children, right? But that's all that it's coming down to. It's like you've got teachers, you've got schools, you've got superintendents, you've got all these people wanting to bring this down on children in the classroom. In the classroom, you've got lawmakers making laws around this. This is something that when Karen Kennedy was on my show last week, she said in the state of Colorado, and I really want to bring her back on to really dig into this bill, but it's a dead naming bill. So if you call somebody by what they consider their dead name, you can be prosecuted. Like what? Or misgendering someone. You can be prosecuted in the state of Colorado. That infringes upon the rights of other people. I don't know if the bill has actually passed yet in the state legislature. We'll have to double check that, but that is terrifying that they are actually trying to write legislation for people who are given privilege. It's very dangerous and it definitely needs to stop. So on the left, in Slate, I guess that's a publication, their piece detailed how pride parades are continuing even in small towns where they face opposition. Legislation and intimidation can make queer and trans lives harder in countless ways. Stop that. Nobody's making your life harder. You cannot be indecent in public. Like I was saying the other day, if you want to have your flag, if you want to walk down the street and ring bells, whatever, your organization, fine. But when you're trying to walk around with a sock on and that's all you have on, and I've seen the pictures, so you can't take those back, not acceptable. And you want to have children there at these events, not acceptable. It's stuff like that. That's like, this is not about anything but degeneracy because that's what it looks like. That's what y'all are putting out there. It says, but there are essential parts of the queer experience that those who despite us can't touch. They can't stop LGBTQ plus communities from supporting and sustaining one another with art, whimsy, and a good dance floor. It said, An opinion in The Advocate, which leans left, said some of the same companies that once proudly displayed the pride flag now seem to have folded it up and relegated it to the back of the closet, citing security concerns for their employees and changing consumer sentiments. Many of our corporate allies have turned their backs on our community, adding, so now more than ever, we need to have each other's backs. Well, people didn't like seeing, I think a couple of years ago during Pride Month, there was a Satan worshiper and it had like Satan references on clothing for children. People don't like seeing, things like things that would bind a girl's breast in Target, or there are things that adult parents are like, no, stop targeting children. There's a place for that. They do have stores for adult things like that. And if somebody chooses to go into that store, then that's fine. It shouldn't be in Target or Walmart or anywhere else. The general public is going with their young children. Young children should not be exposed to this. I think that's where I'm at with it, because it's dangerous. When we're exposing our children to something that, yes, you got to explain what these people are doing, and it all comes back to sexual activity. That's it. That's all it comes back to. It doesn't come back to anything else but sexual activity. This is, again, and people may not want to hear this is a religion. This is a mindset. This is past ideology. This is a religion. This is how they worship. This is how they get down. Okay. So for everybody out there that's thinking, oh, it's just a whimsical month. No. This is how they get down. I was actually watching Pastor Ragland the other day, and he was saying, there's 145 days that are celebrated and dedicated to this agenda. And it is an agenda, but it's more than an agenda. It is literally a religion, because if you do not accept their mindset, they will shout you down. And I've seen it happen. They shout you down. You're this, you're that. I'm like, nobody needs to care about what you do. They really don't. They really, really don't. If you care about what you do, that's fine. But don't drag me into it. I don't want to be involved. Okay? There's a lot of different people out there, and they want to do a lot of different things, and they may have protests about it, and you can choose to participate or not. And if you don't choose to participate, those same people that are protesting don't show up at your door, or don't show up at different, why aren't you for us? And why? Because they don't have to be. We used to have something in the world called shame. And people were ashamed to do certain things. That's gone. And that's why we're here. People are not ashamed to walk around with a sock on. People are not ashamed to do this in front of children. And I think we need to get back to the mindset of shaming people and saying, no, you're not going to do this. No, this is appropriate. Stop that. That's where we need to get back to. Because if we don't, I'm telling you, we're going to wake up and look around and be like, what happened to the world? Well, it was called a little bit of yeast getting into the dough and taking over. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. Now, I also wanted to look at this headline, Biden administration accused of covering up potential cancer clusters after East Palestine derailment. So I don't know if everybody remembers where that truck had gotten derailed and all of the poisonous emissions going out in Palestine, Ohio. And then there was a movie that was released somewhere around the same time, and it had a similar situation in that said movie. It was really creepy, but it happened. But it did happen. So the summary, a whistleblower accused the Biden administration of concealing information regarding potential cancer clusters in East Palestine, Ohio, following a toxic chemical spill resulting from a train derailment in 2023. Yeah, so it happened like 2 years ago. Can you guys believe 2 years went so fast? Oh my gosh. Just living in a time warp. But yeah, 2 years ago it's been. So the details, the Government Accountability Project report suggests that the administration, including the Federal Emergency Management Agency, which is FEMA, failed to publish health data indicating inevitable health impacts from the incident. According to the report, the administration knew residents would require health checkups for at least 20 years following the spill and faced the potential for cancer clusters, but did not disclose this to the public. That's very terrifying and scary. Wow. It was only discussed internally, and it actually was discussed all the way up to the White House. Government Accountability Project investigator Leslie Pacey said. News Nation, which is center biased, obtained an email instructing FEMA executive Jim McPherson not to interact with the residents when he visited East Palestine in September 2023. Wow. What? You knew and you didn't tell these people? You've known about this and you didn't tell these people. That's just disgusting. That's gross. And then you're not supposed to interact with people. See, this is why people don't like FEMA. This is why when people see FEMA, they're like, you are not here to help us. This is why when all that stuff went down, North Carolina, Tennessee, and South Carolina with the hurricanes and everything, people were like, you are not here to help us. That proves it. Sorry. FEMA, look, I'm grateful that Kennedy is there over HHS. Something needs to be done about FEMA. Seriously. So for context, the toxins released included vinyl chloride and dozens of other chemicals, many of which are carcinogens, contaminating air, soil, and water sources in the area. Exposure to vinyl chloride is linked to a heightened risk of a rare form of liver cancer, hepatic agasarcoma, with, as well as a primary liver cancer, hepatocellular carcinoma, brain and lung cancers, lymphoma, and leukemia. So all of these cancers are related to this toxin in the air. So according to the Daily Mail, which leans right, in October 2023, the Environmental Protection Agency said residents east of Palestine are not in danger of contaminated drinking water, soil, or air from the derailment, Pacey said. They didn't always test for the right chemicals. They didn't test in the right locations. They didn't have the right detection limits. Wow. But you're telling people they're going to be safe, but you're not testing it properly. It's crazy. This is like the EPA's job. It's like, okay, this happened. You need to tell people, I don't put this all on FEMA. I'm going to lay this at the feet of the EPA as well. You should be telling people and confirming. You said they weren't in danger, but you didn't test it to see if anybody else was in danger. I mean, really, what are we doing? So this is how the media covered it. The report was covered by outlets on the right and in the center. At the time of writing, the most recent coverage all sides could find of East Palestine on the left was from February 2024. So they just stopped covering it. on the left. Like they didn't even bring it up anymore. They was like, yep, that happened. We're not going to talk about it. You've contaminated the air, water, and soil. And people still don't know what's going on. Like EPA, you need to get up there. Like Trump administration, if anybody's listening to this broadcast, get on it, please, for the people. This is why people don't like government, because you want to make us look crazy and tell us, oh, nothing to see here. Move along, humans. What? Seriously? No, we can't move along. We can't move along because you're just bent on destroying us. I mean, with the whole AI thing, that is very serious. And again, I'm really grateful for Marjorie Taylor Greene being humble enough to say, you know what, I missed that. And I'm going to have to go back. And she may not be able to vote for the bill if it comes back from the Senate back to the House, unless that's revised. Yeah. But these are the things we should be bringing up to help one another, right? There's enough mudslinging going on. If you know something on the left that I should know on the right, let's talk about it. Let's not blame one another. Let's go, okay, what's going on? Because my whole thing is when I hear certain things, and you will, people got TikTok accounts and they're just blabbing out information. What's your proof? I want the website. I want the document. If you're talking about legislation, I want the number of the bill, whether it's coming from the House or from the Senate, which, which representative sponsored it, right? Who came up with the bill? Like those are the things that I want to know. I don't want to just talk about information. This is why I like sharing my screen with you, my audience and listeners, because I want you to see what I'm talking about. I want you guys to have enough time to absorb what I'm saying. I mean, I even had someone on in our last segment talking about the baby boxes, but you know what? I dug a little deeper to find out who were the representatives that sponsored that bill. Those are things that are important. And we find out that it's a partisan bill. It's not even nonpartisan. When this would be available to everybody, where are the Democrats to support this? And then it got kicked out. This is important. Republican Party always talks about life, and so does the Democratic Party. Where's the Democratic Party on this? Like in the state of Georgia, I need y'all to get on this baby boxes. I need you to get on it. And stop standing around talking about reproductive care, reproductive rights, because that, to me, that just equals abortion. That does not equal life. It doesn't. Never has. It's a talking point for abortion. And everybody knows it, and everybody's tired of it. So I need the Democrats in Georgia to support this baby box bill. HB 350. Look at it. And if it needs to be a standalone bill, that's fine. Rewrite it. Make it a standalone bill and do your job. Because everybody could benefit from this. Not just one side of the aisle. There are some issues that are nonpartisan, and they should be. They truly, truly should be. Now, I want to check this fact-checking section because, Elon Musk was very upset about the money that would be added to the bill package that Donald Trump wants to put in place. Rand Paul's upset about it as well. There are a few Republicans and even Democrats that are upset. They're like, okay, we don't want to add more debt. And I get it. And I'm okay with that. My whole thing is dig into the bill and find out where you can save, right? Find out where you can save. And it says here, is Donald Trump's mega bill projected to add more than $2 trillion to the national debt? And this is a center fact-checking article. It says nonpartisan analysts estimate that President Donald Trump's mega bill would add at least $2 trillion to the national debt over 10 years. All sides content from GigaFact, a network of newsrooms that respond to online claims. View the full fact brief on Wisconsin Watch. So I'm going to click here for the full story. All right. It says the Congressional Budget Office preliminary estimate says the tax and spending bill now in Congress will add $2.3 trillion. Other estimates are higher. Tax Foundation, $2.56 trillion, University of Pennsylvania, Wharton, budget model, $2.79 trillion, Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, $3.1 trillion, including interest payments. Some estimates under $2 trillion account for projected economic growth, while other estimates over $5 trillion note some provisions in the bill are temporary and will likely be extended. The debt, which is the accumulation of annual spending that exceeds revenues, is $36 trillion. So right now we're at $36 trillion in debt. It's crazy. Did you ever think that we would have this much debt ever? I don't think anybody likes this. You know, I remember I was on Sonny Johnson's show and I said something probably very controversial. It's like, I would love to see our House and Senate members not receive a salary until they balance the budget. You just are not going to make any money. We can't afford you until you can fix this. That's where I'm at. Because everybody always talks about, we can't afford this, we can't afford that. Well, we can't afford you. Okay. Y'all are going to have to come up with something, right? Or take a pay cut. How about that? I'm okay with that. Or, cap your salaries for the next 10 years until you get the budget balanced. I don't know, would that make people actually do their jobs if we threaten their salaries? Because it's disgusting where we're at right now. So U.S. Representative Gwen Moore, a Democrat in Milwaukee, and U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, a Republican from Wisconsin, claimed the bill would add trillions. And a lot of people are talking about that, and Elon Musk is upset about it because, he's done all this hard work with his team to save money, and now they're just going to spend it. It's crazy. Among other things, the bill would make 2017 individual income tax cuts permanent, add work requirements for Medicaid and food assistance, and add funding for defense and more deportations. So where the money's probably going is here. It's probably going here because it got the Golden Dome, right, that Trump's talking about building. And when you're deporting more people, you're going to have more people on staff for those deportations. So yeah, you're going to be spending more money, but I wonder what that looks like when it's flushed out. So you get rid of these people and you get more Americans working, which circulates more dollars in our economy. But does that, bring the deficit down? I know there's been some things that Donald Trump talked about doing. I think the gold card, it was like some type of gold visa, something to that point where people could get citizenship and start businesses over here. And he was like, if we sell so many of these things, maybe they might help offset the national budget. People were looking at that as ways, but I really, I'm still on. I want people to not get a paycheck, period. It's like, I do not want to pay you until you balance this budget, honestly, until you do your job. They're driving me nuts with it, y'all. I don't know about you guys, but this is this is really sad where we're at, that we have to I don't want to say suffer, because we're not suffering. We are here still in the United States, and I'm grateful. But we can do better. I think there is an opportunity for us to do better. I think there's an opportunity for the current House and Senate to really look at balancing the budget. I think people have great ideas on both sides. It's like, put them forth. Stop fighting with one another to play politics, because while you're playing politics, the people of this country, their lives are hanging in the balance. We don't have time for you arguing back and forth. What we do have time for is you getting your job done. And with that, we're going to take a short break, and I will see you guys on the other side. And we are back. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And we have another guest here for our Women in Wellness Wednesday. I'll be bringing her up here shortly. But again, I wanted to thank you guys for joining us live on X, YouTube, and Facebook. So hopefully she's ready for me. I don't see her photo because, I'm using StreamYard. So if I see the picture, I know people are ready. If I don't see the picture, I don't know if they're ready. So, I'm going to try this. I'm going to add her to the stage, and hopefully she is ready for us on this Women in Wellness Wednesday. There she is. Hey, how are you this morning?
I am beyond excellent. Oh my God. I don't know why I was looking at the time. You guys, I'm gonna be settled in just a minute. Please forgive me. I'm on my way down to the Board of Commissioners today. So I don't know why I was thinking like 8 p.m. I don't know. Forgive me. You sent it to me a few times. So y'all gonna ride with me today.
Yes. And if you notice, this is LA Pink. And if you are on Facebook, she holds it down daily. You know what I'm saying? And we are always with her wherever she's going. So this is exciting. So you're going on your way to the Board of Commissioners. So I'll turn it over.
You're literally with me, huh? You're literally with me today.
Yes.
Yes. I am on my way to Board of Commissioners. It starts at 10 o'clock, but I usually try to get down there early so I can pray and set the tone for what's going to be delivered. Okay. So you guys are with me today. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So could you tell us a little bit about you and where our audience can follow you to learn more about what you're doing?
Absolutely. I am LA Pink. I am the First Lady and President of Street Groomers. I am the CEO of the Community Boutique with LA Pink, where we are the voice for the voiceless and we empower dignity through fashion. And so what we do in the community is what God needs us to do. It's really no title to it. For what he needs and wants us to do, we'll do it. So sometimes we feeding and clothing, and then sometimes we putting our foot to the necks of those that ain't doing what they're supposed to do for our community.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm so grateful for that. And I actually met LA Pink about a year ago, and while she was campaigning for the sheriff there in Fulton County. And so since then, we've stayed connected and just tried to, help each other. I'm just so glad that you're doing well,
Absolutely.
and that you're still involved. So what's happening at the Board of Commissions?
So today we will be addressing, of course, and I don't know if your audience is familiar with what's going on in Fulton County with the sheriff department. The sheriff filed now about a year ago, filed a false TPO out on me for speaking out for the inmates, speaking out for individuals' loved ones, and falsely accused me of bullying and stalking him because I was going down to the Board of Commissioners, voicing my voice and letting their concerns be heard. And so this was his silenced way of bullying me to try to silence me on what I was speaking out on, for people's rights. Because as we have seen that Jaheim have been arrested for, animal cruelty, but he has not been arrested for human cruelty. And that is a big issue that's going on in Fulton County Jail. I call it the Fulton County Trap House / massacre because there are so many deaths. So we just have lost 2 other individuals in that jail from the incompetence of the sheriff, from them leaving the individuals unattended. So just speaking out about things like that, the thing that happened with LaShawn Thompson, the inmate that just passed away was in that same unit, being mistreated the same exact way and wind up being found face up and passed away when they found him. And this should not be happening inside of a jail. This is not a prison. This is a jail. And this should not be occurring and not happening to our loved ones.
Wow. Thank you so much for bringing us that information. Now, if anybody wanted to donate to you or find out more information on that, where should they go?
They can do many of things. You can Zelle us at 678-984-9241. You can Cash App, which is Street Groomers, the number 1. So there's many ways that they can go about making sure that, they help be a part of the movement to continue for us to do what we got to do for our loved ones that are locked up and incarcerated. Just to throw another little incident that just happened that wasn't really, really major, and Fox 5 got the exclusive for it. We were able to partner with Anna from We See You. She had been on this case for a mighty long time, over 3.5 years, maybe a little bit longer, fighting for David Scott to be released for 2 life sentences plus 15. And we were able to partner with her and bring in attorney Mario Williams and get that overturned. So we were able to get a 2 life sentence. I wish it was 2 years. 2 life sentence plus 15 overturned here in the state of Georgia. We were able to release a gentleman that his name, we call him Runt. He was in Fulton County Jail for 6 years. Wow. We brought in our attorney. His father and them had rented out an attorney, and I call it rent because, it's an installment, but for the system. And so we were able to bring in our attorney once again, Mario Williams, and he was able to get one out in 2 weeks. And they had been fighting this case for 6 years. Wow. So, God is really amazing when it comes to doing his work, and we are about that.
Okay, and thank you for that, and just all the hard work that you do. Because see, a lot of times people don't see this and they don't hear about it. That's why I was so grateful when you said you would come on the show. I was like, yeah, people need to understand what you're doing, because a lot of times, just in this incident with Larry Hoover, that people have been talking about, and I was in a space yesterday, and we were talking about how the influence that he had. And my whole thing was, as I researched him, I was like, okay, they threw him in a federal prison because he was committing crimes on the outside. But when he was committing crimes, you guys were letting him, right?
Yeah.
So what changed? And, Mark Carter said when he started talking about development and changing and empowerment, that's when he got locked up. that was the point. of where, he got locked up. And I was like, wow, okay. So I'm just grateful that you're working on getting people out, and getting their sentences
Right.
shortened so they can be impactful in the community, right?
Right.
And have their lives to hopefully help other young men that are out there not even get that far, right?
Well,
They can
let's
learn through
dig
their
even
testimony.
deeper.
Okay.
Let's dig even deeper into that, because by you saying that and them being able to give him the sentences that they gave to him, now we are witnessing criminals in office today.
Mm.
So do they need to be thrown into a cage and never ever let out? Because we witnessed Funny Willis perjury up on the stand, saying that she did not sleep with Nathan Wade. And I always bring these particular things up, excuse me, you guys, bring these particular things up because if we're going to say no one is above the law and we're going to arrest someone for having power, these are people that are in power that are breaking the law.
Yeah.
And in right now, nothing has been done to them. We have a sheriff right now that has over 46 bodies that have died inside of the prison, more than even the you get at a funeral home on a day, on a week, and nothing has been done about it. So when we talk about Larry Hoover, and I talk about it, because it's so serious, because I have done events with his family and his son and his wife. So it's not just me saying, oh, go Larry Hoover, or just, for the fame and the fortune of what comes with it. It's his family that is really out here fighting for him to be free, because they have not seen him in ages.
Wow.
Like, this is a man that and then everybody was sitting up there saying, well, what was the big deal about him, Trump pardoning him when he wasn't coming home? Well, Trump pardoned him because this gives him an opportunity to reinstate his life, for him to see his family. He had not seen his family in all these years, and now he's going to be able to have an opportunity. 51 years. Now he's going to have an opportunity to actually see his family. How disrespectful to people to say he doesn't deserve that.
Yeah. It's a trip.
Imagine being locked down, for 51 years. Can you imagine that? In 24-hour lockdown?
And people don't really talk about his influence, right? They miss that part. They talk about the criminal activity that happened, but I was like, how much of an enterprise was he really able to run from inside the prison? And I was so grateful, for Mark Carter sharing his eyewitness account, because he was actually in prison the same time Larry Hoover was. And he was like, no, you guys don't realize once he made that change and he realized how we needed to change as a people, and he started talking that way, they locked him up. They locked him up.
Yes. Well, if anybody is paying attention, that's what they do to all of the leaders. And I won't just, because I know I don't want to make it a black or white thing, but it is all our black leaders have been either murdered or executed, or because of the power that they felt like they had and hold, or locked up. So they don't deserve another chance. But here it is. We have several different people that have, and their children that have murdered millions of people, and you have allowed them to have a second chance. They have murdered over 9 people, went in churches. Denver, Colorado, went into movie theaters and killed all of these people, and they got a second chance. But here it is, this man have changed people's lives, and he don't get a second chance. He doesn't deserve that. Like, it's
crazy.
So
it's
we
very
all gotta
upside
fight
down
for it. So it's a fight. It's a
I'm
fight.
definitely praying for his family, and praying that they can put enough pressure on Pritzker to
Oh yeah.
convention, to pardon his sentence when he gets back to Illinois so that he
Mhm.
can spend the remainder of his life with his family.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, I hope that he has a heart, and I don't believe that Trump did it so that he can lose in it. He wins
Hmm.
regardless, but he really wins to allow for what he had went forth to do, and that's to get that man home to his family. And Trump's not going to stop until he does that. So
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't have faith in nobody but God, but from what, like I said, and I've never been a fan of Trump. I'm independent. We already
Right.
talked about that. But with what I have saw out of the Demon Rats, I am really, really cheering for this man to succeed because of the disrespect that have been
Mm.
given for a human being. Now, when
Yeah.
God took Saul, and I'm going there because he took Saul and allowed Saul to become Paul out of all the mistakes that he made, and he used him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
allow God to use this man for whatever way he's going to use him, and get out the way. If you don't
Yeah.
like him, stay out the way.
Yeah.
That's not our place to like or dislike anybody. God said love in all of our people. So if you don't like him, do what you got to do to make sure that the corruption and the incompetence of people don't continue to happen. Get out and vote. Get out and have your voice be heard. Make a show.
Yes.
Do something to stay involved. But if you're not going to do that, then when I see it, I'm gonna attack it. Like, I'm gonna say something about it. You know what I'm saying? Because I just I can't continue to be silent uh, for things that needs to be addressed.
Absolutely, absolutely. And before you go, I usually ask my guests on Women in Wellness Wednesday just to give our audience something that they should take away with. And we are also involved in political wellness as well, because, mind, body, spirit, we got to take care of that, but we also have to be politically well. So, what is something that you want to leave our audience with that they may be able to focus on?
Absolutely, that no matter what is going on in the world, continue to occupy your mind to trust and believe in God, because the world will fail you, but God will never fail you. And the way
Mm.
that things are going right now, there's so many different strings being pulled, but God is pulling the most powerful one. So keep your mind stayed on Him, because He'll keep you in perfect peace and direct your path. And continue to meet people where they're at and take them where you're going. And if you're going to the top, it's too much. It's too many people failing at the bottom. So just stay focused, and focus. Your focus is on God, not man.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us here, and drive safe to your
Absolutely.
destination. Praying for
I
you.
know you guys. Forgive me. I thank you guys, but now y'all get to see what I do. Like, this literally. I mean, I've been down because my car has been down, but I am moving around today. So y'all ride with me. Y'all get a part of my life for real.
Right, right. Like
I
I
know.
said, yes, and again, we're praying for you that everything works out with you
Thank
in
you.
this temporary protective order, and that we'll get a praise report that everything has been settled.
Oh, well, the thing about it is that TPO was false. So he
Mm,
redacted it,
okay.
and he went back on his word with it. Yes, but I am still filing a lawsuit because that was my character that he is tainted and trying to destroy,
Mm,
because it wasn't true. So
gotcha. Gotcha.
I'm going to
Awesome.
seek legal action behind it. So yes,
Okay.
that's where
All
we're
right.
at now.
All right. Well, let's keep moving forward. Like I said, I'm looking forward to the praise report where, you call us and tell us like
Absolutely.
it's done, y'all.
Yes, and I want to thank you because I know that we didn't get to talk about it, but we do feed the homeless as well. And you have been out with us to feed and be out with the homeless. And so I thank you openly for all the
Aw.
work that you have done and you continue to do to make sure that Georgia stays a better place.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, we will see you on the next one. Thank you so much for joining
All
us.
right. Kingdom
Okay.
blessed.
Bye.
All right.
Yes, so that was LA Pink, and I will definitely make sure to add the links to her Facebook page and just where you guys can follow her and help her. And she does such a great work with the homeless down in Atlanta, which is right up from the Capitol building. And it's interesting because you would think with the resources that we have here in Georgia and just across the country to help our homeless, that we would have fewer homeless, and we have more. And, you guys have heard me talk about it before that, homelessness has become something that they're making money off of it as opposed to ending it. Right. And we need to really encourage these organizations to end it. And if they're not in the business of ending it, then they shouldn't get any funding. And that's how it should go. We should really only be sending our money and supporting organizations that are there to end and eradicate homelessness, not continue to enable it, right? So, again, thank you guys so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. This has been our Wednesday Women and Wellness Day, and I pray for all of the women out there that, yes, stay focused on God. And again, we stay here, as we say here at Unfiltered Vision, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. And we will see you guys tomorrow on the next one. Thanks again for joining us.